Are we recording it? Yep, we are now.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Tairua Pauanui Community Board's meeting held in Whangamata. A bare bones type approach today. And are there any apologies? There being none. Are there any items not on the agenda? There are none. Is there any conflicts of interest? There are none. We'll go into public forum. First name I've got is Carolyn. Are you up there, Carolyn?
Doesn't look like she's in yet. Donna's trying to get some of the public forum in.
Okay. David here with us?
No, we've got Derek available. Derek Adams.
Okay, I'm just going off the list. I've got Derek. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Look, my name's Derek Adams. I'm here representing the Hikawai District Trust, who are responsible for the design, construction and operation of the Pauanui to Tairua Cycleway or shared user path. And I was keen to just give you a little bit of an update on some stuff that's going on there. As you're probably aware, the first 6.5 kilometres of the trail has been completed a couple of years ago and is well utilised. And we're looking to move into the next stage of construction shortly. The Trust has become increasingly aware that we would benefit from having a greater degree of connection to iwi, some of the other stakeholder groups, a better relationship with DOC and stakeholders generally. And with that purpose, we're looking to make some improvements to the governance of the project. My background, I have recently joined the Pauanui community, and I have a background in major infrastructure projects, including the Copa Bridge, the Cambridge and Huntley sections of the Waikato Expressway, and more recently the Manawatu bypass. And I guess what has become increasingly aware to me in that infrastructure sector is that the projects are benefiting from greater stakeholder and iwi engagement, and the trustees feel that we could improve the delivery of this project by making some changes. To that end, we had a meeting last week facilitated by TCDC where we met with iwi reps and have actually invited them to consider how they might engage with the Trust in a governance sense to enhance the delivery. And we're confident of hearing back from them in the next couple of weeks and to make some changes in that governance of the project for the benefit of its delivery. I wanted to continue to thank TCDC for their ongoing support. We're only a quarter of the way into this project. It's 25 kilometres long, and we really feel that with these changes that we're proposing, we're going to improve the delivery and enhance our capability to get the whole project delivered. I look forward to reporting back to you as we progress down that path.
Thank you, Derek.
I got a question. I can introduce you. Welcome. Sorry, I forgot your name.
Derek Adams.
Yeah, Derek. Yeah. Derek, one of the discussions we're thinking about, or where we are with, is the trail has sort of stopped coming to an issue along the riverbank there, etc.
Yep.
I know you've got a consent with WRC, but where's that discussion going at the moment? What's happening with that part of that trail concern?
I think that's what in part is leading us to recognise that we need an improved relationship with iwi, DOC, and these are all related. The relationship with iwi has not been strong. DOC are not willing to, while we have a consent to cross their land, we don't have it requires final agreement on alignment across their property, and they're not willing to engage or approve that until they see that we have iwi supportive of the route, and that in turn is connected to some of the affected landowners that are immediately adjacent to the reserve along the front there. So we need to get that engagement. I think everybody collectively wants the trail, but there are a number of different interests that probably haven't been connected to it as well as they could be, such that we can get some go forward.
Is this the preferred trail that you want to pursue?
I think we are. That is the current preferred route, but we're not wedded to that one route. If there is a better route that has buy-in from all of the stakeholders, I think it's important that we are flexible enough to respond to that and find the right route that has everybody on board.
Thank you.
Derek, can I ask you what's happening with the consent for the section from the Tairua Wharf or Tairua School up to the cemetery? Has there been any progress on that?
I would have to concede that I have only been involved relatively recently, so I really can't answer that. But what I can do is ensure that when we come back to you next time, that either I or somebody who knows about that leg can inform you.
The other option that has been discussed is the possibility of a bridge across the river, which would take out that questionable section.
Yep. Look, I think the getting agreement and finding the right alignment along the entire route is clearly critical to the success of the project, and you'd have to conclude that we don't actually have that at this point in time. We need the right engagement with the right people to find the right solution.
Yep. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Right. Well, thank you very much, Gary.
Cheers. Thank you.
Vicky, have we got you there?
No, she still hasn't made it in.
Ah,
It looks like we're trying to dial in David still.
David Jones.
Yes, so if we could just wait a moment, see if he gets in.
It was quite impressive, that guy, wasn't he? That was what he was.
Yeah, it's obviously understands the systems.
And you agree?
So they're really still active in it. I don't think they're walking away from it. It's just a matter of the aligning people, really. It's all about now.
Can we adjourn the public forum and then the meeting come back to it? If they can't get it.
I think they're a bit frustrated with, but
We did trial on Friday with them, so I'm not sure what's happening here.
it'd be good to have a new face and experienced guy as well. So, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, ask the question if we can adjourn the public forum and then come back to it.
Yeah.
We're waiting on another person.
There's a couple.
Two are trying to get in,
There's Vicky Overson from Puketui
and David.
and David from Paranoia. And Caroline, I don't know where she's gone. But perhaps we could move on to 1.5.
Yeah, I'm just asking if we can adjourn the public forum and come back to it.
These are the vagaries of online public forum, isn't it?
Yeah, I already said carry on.
Yeah, so we just adjourn and come back to it?
Okay. Do I need to put that?
Move out of public forum. I'll move.
Thank you. Second. Moving on. Thank you. In favour?
Aye.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to 1.5. The minutes for confirmation. Can I have a move from seconder? Move. Yep. Thank you. In favour. Any discussion on the previous?
Yes, I have through the chair. Graham Creek's Bridge, staff agreed to it. This is set 5.4. Staff agreed to investigate the possibility of an out-of-cycle budget request to progress the footpath extension from Graham's Creek Bridge to engage with the Wakatahi Kotahi on the project. Has any work been done on that since the last meeting?
That's in our work
How do you
program.
work program update?
There's an update on there further down
Is it?
in the work program or.
On the work program?
Yeah, right.
So that's not a project that we're signed off, it's just one for discussion, is that right?
Right, we've gone to staff for a report now.
I see that they've actually got the buttresses on there that's put the bridge on.
Okay. So, is there any other matters arising from the?
Just one more if I can through the chair, that was 6.1, the rates revision. It says there that request staff to contact the community board groups that are required to pay service charges and advise them of the financial hardship permission. Is that any dialogue being done with the ratepayers on that?
That's.
I don't know, but I can find out for you.
Yeah, that's me.
That stops here. I can answer that. Yes, they have. So the rates team have been talking to the affected people, and they're just working through a report now that will go to the next audit and risk committee meeting.
Thank you.
That was the clubs, wasn't it? The
Yeah.
ones that had leases. Okay. Happy there, councillor Walton? Yep. Can we, we've had it moved and seconded. All in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you, carry. 2.1, Community Board grants. The resolution here is to request that the Tairua Pauanui Community Board consider the allocation of community grant funding to organisations that have applied for assistance through the 2021-22 community grants round. We have a move and a seconder. Seconder, thank you. Right. Let us begin.
Okay. Tairua Troubadours, requesting $1,500. So the board have decided, or you have a discussion about it?
Yeah, I'm waiting on you.
I said yes, full amount for them.
Full amount? Does everyone agree on the full amount? $1,500?
Still trying to find one.
Yeah, well, just got to be careful, we've only got 37K.
Yes, I'm doing a running total, so I'll let you know when we're going through. Okay, so Paranoia Sports and Rec Club, they're requesting $16,000. Last year, this is for the fireworks display. Last year you gave them $8,000.
Keep going, we can come back to these, haven't we, just?
Yep, you can put the figures in and come back and change them.
Probably take that back at 8 grand.
$8,000?
I thought.
Where are we? Paranoia Rec?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's the summer series, sorry. Last year you still gave them $7 grand, I think it was last year. Is that what they gave them still? Was that, and now, you should have had the figure on there.
It's on the full spreadsheet, not this one. Summer series, the Gin Festival.
Yeah.
This is for their summer program and their.
Sorry, yeah, I've got,
Gin Festival craft beer.
we can come back to that if you want.
Yeah, well, I've put 10 here, but you carry on, yeah.
So you put 10? Okay,
Yes.
we can come back.
Yep.
Okay, Tairua Information Centre, this is the centre on the Pepe, requesting $2,100.
I've given them 2 grand.
$2 grand. Tairua Information Centre, construction of new deck, they're requesting $5,893.
They didn't give them anything.
Is that,
I didn't know that.
You didn't either?
well, if that heritage centre goes ahead,
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
how far we can get involved with that, the lease management, quite complicated.
That's fine.
This is the section outside where that grass section where they've got all their signage. The idea was to put a deck there and put their signs up on the deck for a view.
And say so.
Anyway, I didn't do anything.
Okay, so an agreement. Tairua Community Hall heat pump replacement, requesting $10,270.
How long have those existing heat pumps been there?
Quite a long time.
Yeah.
Long time. I said yes for that.
Sorry?
I said yes to that one.
So full amount, 10,000
I
or
thought so,
Yeah.
10,000?
I give them 3. That's all right.
We can come back.
Yeah.
Okay, Tairua Pauanui promotion, sorry, this is the fireworks one, so they've requested 2 grants, one for 9,000. That's for the actual fireworks display, and then they've got the repayment of the barge loan of 5,000.
So that breaks down 4.5 each side. That's how I looked at it, Tairua Pauanui. We've had to contribute 4.5 for the fireworks and 2.5 for the barge. We can't have the fireworks without the barge. And the barge, this is a new barge. So that's what I've done.
So what have
I've
you,
split it 4.5 each side. I'm trying to get a balance on Tairua Pauanui. So, yeah,
So-
full amount for the fireworks and
full amount for the fireworks
full amount for the barge. I
and full amount for the
can't
barge?
see how we can get away from
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Yeah,
the barges.
and it's only one off anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're already at $37,500.
It cracked me up, I was doing the numbers.
So,
Well, yeah, okay.
so you either need to go back to your summer series and knock that back and knock back your heat pump. But we can keep on going. And
Yeah, keep on going.
keep on going. Tairua Bowling Club, replacing bar freezer.
No,
No. Tairua Rugby Sports Club, PA system.
no. They've got a system there.
Tairua Trail and Tides Half Marathon.
Yep.
So you want to 5,000?
2, I've got 2.
2.
Trail and tides.
Okay, Paranoia Half Marathon, they've requested 2.5 or 2,400.
So these things run by community groups or private business?
Community groups, yeah.
The Paranoia Half Marathon is a community group, and the same with the Trail and Tides.
I had 2 sitting there.
2,000?
They really are extremely popular. They bring a lot of
It's
people
a
in.
community public thing, isn't it?
They bring people in actually as well.
Paranoia residents and ratepayers, Rabbit Cull,
And I give them 500.
500.
Otherwise the damage will be some in the river.
Okay, Friends of
Crossrail.
Te Whanganui Ahe Reserve Trust, no. Tairua Heritage Society, 2,000.
I'll give them 1,000.
Tairua Care and Friendship, 1,200.
I gave them the 1,200 and they do their
Yeah.
meals and whatnot.
They're pretty, yeah.
Order of St John's,
No,
no. Creative Coromandel,
any others?
Parents and Friends of Tairua School,
No, I don't know. I haven't given them anything because, you know, they raised, I know they didn't have their wine and food fest last year, but they raised big money, don't
Yeah,
they?
that's
So,
That's another extremely popular thing.
it can done.
It's not really,
It's not the sort of thing I
It's just that they have a guzzle of wine, isn't it? I didn't give them anything, but hey, I'll listen.
okay?
They take a lot of money with it.
Well, they make a lot of money for the school.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Central Kids, Kids
Oh,
Day Trip to Footy Farm Park,
I give them $100.
Spirit of Coromandel,
No.
and Tairua Elam Church.
Yeah, well, you know, I gave them 1,000, but there again, they put a thing on for the kids. I don't know how many go.
Can you just go back to that the Spirit of Coromandel Trust, that youth confidence building course, that'd be a good one to help the community on that. You know,
Where is it?
it's just,
It's not their area, is it?
Yeah, they give it to kids in the area, so the funding is granted by the Coromandel Coal Board have granted them some funds. But yeah, the youth confidence building courses, they do take kids from the area.
They have in the past?
I'm not sure if they have.
No, I'm not aware of it.
just help them out, give them 500.
What happens here, Terry, do you hear about it here?
No.
No.
What do you reckon, 500 to?
Well, I didn't have anything in there, so.
Yes, there was.
You
Give them 500?
pencil it,
Yeah.
we'll come back to it.
Okay, so we've been through them all for the first run, and your vote was spent by 8,800.
Oh, let's have bloody careful one.
That's all right.
Well, the Paranoia summer sports, that's a biggie, it's always been a biggie.
Yeah.
And they do, you know, they do a fair program over there, so. I had them down for 10, so where are we with that?
It's up to you if you want to
What
reduce
have
it.
you currently got in there? Well,
We've got 10.
10.
Yeah.
To reduce that to 8.
Reduce it to 8.
Would that be, well, that's a suggestion, it's not a.
Well, leave it at 10. They need it, and it's brings a lot of people in.
Do they charge entrance for the?
Hold on, I'm
Well,
just
the-
checking.
Sorry, someone's talking?
No.
No, I don't think so.
I've got a note here, it says it's sold out.
Oh, I know, it's a bit of a mess, the way they've done that. The beer and gin thing is, I don't know why that is associated with that. I think,
You're right.
because it's,
We don't advocate or support drink feasts.
there's no eater of them because they sold out so quickly.
So what has sold out? What has sold out? Has there been some income derived from something here?
They've got money in the bank, but they can't touch it for some reason. I had a quick word with the club manager, and but it was a quick word, and I've come away thinking, what the hell's all this about? But they can't do anything with it until
You
next
did
week.
have 10,000, but you've got to remember, you've already overspent 8,800, so.
Yeah, but I was just going to say that, why would we be supporting a boozer?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you end up supporting, that's just the way it's worded somehow. I don't get it at all, that one.
Well, if it's not worded properly, we don't support it.
I know that the motels and the Accor and all that were booked up. They were booked up as soon as it went on, and then this COVID thing hit, and it's.
But it's like the Scholar Festival, does the Whitianga community would support the Scholar Festival?
It's been supported by a major fund out of TCDC for a couple of years, but yeah, where the Yanga people support it.
But they tap that big event.
Well, they have for a couple of years, and then they've got to fall on their own 2 feet, so.
Yeah.
I'll get their application, just bringing it up. Oh, yeah?
But guys, I'm not commenting because it's your money, so I think it's really important you make the decision. But I did like to comment quickly on the Creative Coromandel Partner Up Trust. This is when a group of mentors come to town and train artists to become better in their creative field so that they can train other artists. So it has got a ripple effect. It does come back to benefit your areas in terms of those better quality people being engaged in the arts community. Give you some heads up how that works.
We do have members, I'm sure we've got members.
So they-
belong to that.
Yeah.
In their application, they've said that the grant is actually to subsidise costs for the summer series craft beer and gin festival, for marketing, hire, security, first response, summer series to offset costs for the TNP if required. So it is a summer series and the craft beer and gin festival. And part of their event is the beer and gin festival.
It's on 500 checkouts.
So we're looking at 8, you know, are we?
If that's what you want, yeah.
Okay, well, you do some alterations here.
Okay, so your next big one you've got on here is the Tairua Community Hall.
Yeah.
10,000 for the heat pumps.
As I say, I would put 3 here.
Well, would be a suggestion to maybe drop it down to 5.
Drop, where
For the heat pump replacement.
drop it down to 5. I've only given them 3, so what did you think? Yes.
I thought the full amount. So many different community groups use the hall.
That probably does cross a lot of community groups that use it.
Yeah,
Because this is a huge number.
yeah, it is.
Is this an ASIC type thing?
They do have money in the bank. I mean, I go to their meetings and it was me that suggested that they go for it. I make an application, but you know, I don't know. It'd be creating a precedent if we give them a full amount.
Yeah.
That would be a worry, I think.
How are we going with our total?
So if we reduce that to 5, then you've still got 1,800 overspent.
Didn't touch the fireworks. If we touch the fireworks, there'll be a riot.
Yeah, no, okay.
So shall we go back through them again? Tairua Troubadours, 1,500.
I actually didn't give them anything.
Tairua Troubadours?
No.
No?
I know they.
Well, they don't meet the criteria for a start.
That was for an extra.
Because they didn't provide a budget. That's the only reason why they didn't make them.
Well, that troubadour sells out every time.
Yes, I know. They've only got to increase their fees by $5 a month. But I didn't give them anything. All right. That's.
Okay, so what's the consensus?
Yeah, I'd say leave them out.
Yeah, leave them out?
You reckon leave them out?
Okay.
Yeah, I think on reflection, as I say, they sell out, so they do.
So you're now 300 overspent.
Okay,
So the next one was your Sports and Rec Club, which you've reduced to 8,000. Tairua Information Centre for Centre on the Pepe, you've got 2,000.
yeah, so, and they applied for 2-1.
2 to 1.
So,
So drop that down to 1,800 or something.
Drop it to 1,800.
So we've only got 150 or something left.
Okay, so your Tairua Hall you've reduced, you're not touching the fireworks. The 2 marathons, you've given them $2,000 each.
just divvy it up between the 2.
So if you've taken, okay.
What was the Tairua Trail and Tights half marathon need $5 grand?
So they've got their, for the timing tags and timing point markers for the walk run. So that's the tags that each contestant has on them.
That's the timers.
Yeah, so when you go over them, yeah, it sets off your time. So it's the mats and everything.
I had $2 grand sitting in there.
So you've got $100 at the moment overspent.
Take it.
Well,
Take the kindy.
if you want to reduce anything by $100, about the rabbit collar and Pauanui seems
So the other ones you've
Well, I
got.
had 500 in the rabbit.
I actually thought the rabbit coloured in Paranoia was an environmental wicket, I think.
In Paranoia, they also have their bait stations, and the Paranoia Ratepayers Association provides the bait for it. So this money goes towards providing the bait. So residents in Paranoia can go into there and they will give them a bait station and some of the bait to help get rid of the rabbits. We do have a contractor that goes out there and does the culls as well. There's lots of rabbits.
Knock them down 100.
It's up to you guys.
And Mr. Swindell can take the flak.
Yeah, okay.
You're happy with that?
Yep,
Big chance?
I'll take the poison.
Okay, so we'll just run through them again.
Very Khaleesi for us.
So we'll just run them again, and if everyone's in agreement. Tairua Troubadours, 0. Paranoia Sports and Rec, 8,000. Tairua Information Centre, 1,800 for the centre on the Pepe. Nothing for the construction of new deck. Tairua Community Hall, 5,000. Fireworks display, 9,000. The barge line, 5,000. Tairua Bowling Club, nothing. Tairua Rugby Sports Club, nothing. Tairua Trail and Tides, 2,000. Paranoia Half Marathon, 2,000. Paranoia resident and ratepayers is 400. The Friends of Te Whanganui are nothing. I'm just loading up my thing, sorry. Tairua Heritage Centre Society, 1,000. Tairua Care and Friendship Club, 1,200. Order of St John's, nothing. Coromandel Collective, Creative Coromandel, nothing. Parents and Friends of Tairua School, nothing. Central Kids, 100. Spirit of Coromandel Trust, 500. Tairua Eden Church, 1,000. And that was $37,000 exactly. Everyone agrees? Yeah.
We can't just go and give it willy-nilly because we've got it.
So you just need to move and second the resolution.
Yeah, I'll look at it.
I'm trying to explain this thing down. I'm going to try my shit to make this. Here we go. Alright. 2.1, look at the grants, yeah, so the resolution, we're just really around part two. We confirm the allocation of community grant funding from the 2021-22 community grant budget.
Yeah.
So put that, have a move and second.
Yeah.
All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you.
And you need to do 3 as well because there's some that have been declined.
Include section 3, declines allocation of community grant budget. Some of those have been declined. Okay, put that in it. All right, happy?
And can we please move back to public forum now? We've got them on the line.
Right, so we have to move in a second to go back to the public forum. That's moved, seconded. All right, carried, thank you. Who have we got?
Right, we've got David Yeomans.
David, good morning. David?
He's on mute.
He's on mute. Yeah.
Welcome. Good morning. How are you? Wonderful.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is following the request from some local residents is that the rate period times of payment are reviewed. Currently, as you know, we have 3. The request was to go to 4 times a year. Now, I have spoken with a lady called Judy Harnett, who is the rates team leader in Thames. Her advice was to get this in the council as a subject for review. It needed to go through the community board. I couldn't write directly to the council, TCDC, with this request, and it had to come through the community board. So here it is as a request. The simple one is that the subject is tabled perhaps in the annual review. I don't think it would be applicable to the review of the long-term plan, but it could go into an annual review. So there it is, warts and all. So I'm assuming that this paper has been given to you before and you've had time to read it.
It was emailed.
Yes.
So basically, Mr. Chairman, what I ask of you and the community board if you will endorse that this proposal goes to council for a subject to be tabled at an annual review.
So, they're not actually asking for a rate relief,
What's proposed?
just to spread it.
Just to spread it, yeah.
Spread the payment dates. At the moment, with the I think it's 8.8% rate increase, the average bill, if you take the rates of around, say, 2,800 to 3,200, it works out about the rate payments go up to about 850 to 9 something. And there are folks around the place who would benefit by having those payment dates. We're not asking for rate exemptions or anything. It's just a spread of the payments over the period. Now, in discussion with Judy Harnett, there are other avenues for families who are struggling. There are administrative processes that can do automatic payments of a lesser amount per year, but that's a personal arrangement with each applicant. But as a business practice, doing 4 a year sounds logical given the times that we're in.
Doesn't seem unreasonable.
I think it's good. So it's just public.
Yeah, it's public forum. Okay, thank you, David.
Okay, just bear in mind, through the knowledge that I have of social services, there are people struggling, and this pandemic has made it worse. Last year, there was 374 people between Whangamata and Tairua who were below the poverty line, and this is right across the age groups, with grandparents now looking after younger children for whilst their parents go out and try for work. So any social concept of relief or spread of debt is worthy of consideration. Now, I don't know what the cost for administration of this would be. I have no concept of what that introduction would cost the council.
Are you aware there's all manner of things these people can do? For instance, they can pay monthly by
Yes,
automatic payment.
yeah, it depends on your personal status, Barry. Is that I did for my own personal, I'll give you an example. I gave you, I asked all of my people that I pay, the power, the phone, the internet, I asked them to don't send their bills mid-month. All bills must be paid in the last week of each month, so that pension recipients can receive 2 payments before they have to consider paying bills. That is a relief program which has been introduced by a lot of companies, because I've written to them specifically to make those arrangements within their business protocol. And a lot of them have taken it up.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we have Vicky and Sid Overson.
Vicky, good morning.
Okay, is that it?
Yep, thank you, David.
Okay, cheerio, have a great day. Bye now.
Right. Sid.
Hello, Warwick. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can see you.
That's even better. Okay.
Carry on, sir.
Hello, my name's Sid Overson. I live in Hikawai. I'd like to comment on item 2.2 in the agenda, the proposal to grant funds to the Hikawai District Trust. This application is a poor fit and should not sit in the Parks and Reserve budget as a renewal. The Hikawai District Trust is a private trust building a cycle trail as a private project. The Trust continues to have a poor record of communicating and engaging with the Hikuai community. I'm unsure if the issues that were brought to mediation have been progressed or resolved to all parties' satisfaction. As yet, the trail does not have a workable plan or costings to complete the trail. If the council is a supporting partner of this project, how much is it going to cost, and what are the likely ongoing liabilities to the ratepayer? That there was no official funding agreement with the Trust appears to indicate previous council funding for this project may not have complied with council guidelines. If there is no previous funding agreement, how can it be a renewal? This needs to be treated as a completely new application with detailed supporting documentation. This project doesn't appear in the 10-year long-term plan. My understanding is that Parks and Reserve funds are for the maintenance of council-owned parks and reserves, rather than construction of a private infrastructure project across land owned by multiple parties. If $50,000 a year is for 3 years is to be spent in Hikuai, then Hikuai residents should be able to have a say on what it is spent on. Given the financial constraints the council is under and above considerations, I ask the Community Board not to grant this funding to the Hikuai District Trust through this current process. Thanks.
Thank you, Sid. No, there's no one got any questions? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for listening. And I think this is a great process. I really like this online idea of submitting.
I bet you do. Yes. Good to see you.
Thanks, Warwick.
Thank you for your involvement. So move a second and we go out of public forum meeting.
Nobody else in public forum?
That's it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if I go, move to go out.
Pardon?
Yeah.
We're out. Yeah. Okay. 2.2. The purpose of this report is for our board to confirm the funding agreements for the Hikuai Public Hall Board, the Paranoia Library, and to enter into a funding agreement with the Hikuai District Trust. We have a move and a seconder, please. Moved, Terry, seconded. Yep. Barry, fire. Aye. Thank you, again. Eileen, over to you.
Okay, so there's funding agreements expired on the 30th of June. The budgets have been put into the LTP, so it's now for the board to have a discussion as to whether they want to renew those funding agreements for another 3 years, or whether your options are there. You can decide to reduce the amounts, reduce the years. You can decline entering a 3-year funding agreement.
Can we take them one at a time, maybe?
Sure, yeah. So the first one is the Hikuai Hall.
And can you give us a little update what the money's for?
So the funding agreement with the Hikuai Hall is for the maintenance, and well, some maintenance, but also for the actual operating expenses for the hall, which is your power and.
They've never previously had.
They previously had $3,000 a year, so this has been increased to $5,000.
And the cost, is it renovations inside as well?
No, not renovations, but they have been doing renovations inside. They've been doing painting, they've redone the kitchen several years ago, but that's towards the general running of the hall.
Nothing to do with the car park?
No.
That's
a capital expense.
That's for the council.
Yeah, that's for the council.
So that's about a 60% increase in the funding. Can you see the value of what they're trying to achieve? Like,
yes.
You can. Okay. Okay. I'm on board. Yep.
They actually don't get a lot out there.
No, there is. They look after it pretty well. I don't have a problem with it.
Vibrating up. Okay,
So we're happy with that.
Okay, so
The Paranoia Library,
the library, same thing, this is for the general running of the Paranoia Library, this is same thing, power, rentals, purchasing of books.
And those yearly increases to CPIs, are they?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Yep, no trouble, okay.
Okay, Hikawai District Trust. So previously they haven't had a funding agreement. So this is the time that the board needs to enter into a funding agreement with them if they choose, and to set conditions and achievable outcomes within that funding agreement.
Yeah, speak to the chair if I can. I heard the speaker in the public forum talk about it. I do think though this is a trust that is building a community asset that the community use, and it's open and free to use to everybody. So it's not like it is a money generating activity. It's costing money to establish. If you look around the country, cycleways and walkways are very much part of councils and communities and DOC's idea to encourage people to get out and about. So it's got a lot of value to the community, I think. Yeah, I don't know why the funding agreement sort of lapsed, but I think it's important that they continue their journey, and as the chair said, maybe they should refocus at the difficulty of one end, look at the other end. So,
yeah, it's been funded in a previously in an ad hoc way.
I remember the council gave them $100,000 to start off, and then it's just been, but needs to be tidied up.
And it had its controversies.
Of course they will, all these things do. You can't do these things without controversy.
So,
and I think they'll work their way through this current problem, one way or another. Sounds like this gentleman that came online today, Derek, what's his name?
Derek Adams, we have a new sort of...
Yeah, he's got a bit of an understanding of the connections we need now with iwi and regional council. They have got a consent for this, quite honestly. It's just that DOC's held up the last part of it, so they have been trying to do it in the right manner. And I think the benefits of this, when it's done, it's always a hill to climb. I think it will be enjoyed by the community as a whole.
Council have taken over what's their role? They have an position on this, don't they? They have
an MOU on it, don't they?
Yes, just an MOU.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I remember going through.
Yeah.
But in the event of anything going sideways or upside down, they have the right to close it down.
Correct. It was up to the trust to maintain, look after, and if it got too hard, the council could can it if they wanted to.
So we need to put some rings around this somehow. They need to, instead of just coming out, currently they just give us a report, as I say, with the maintenance on it, and the number of the prisoner control. Other than that, we don't get any information.
Yeah, I thought today was very good an update. I think if they did quarterly updates through the community board, it would give us a greater understanding of their issues and progress.
But you've heard there's nothing about the Tairua side, nothing about the bridge. So there's a lack of communication in here, a serious lack of communication.
Are they aware that that's where they want them to go though? Is this Tairua anything being discussed with them to do?
Oh, I think so.
Yes, we seem to be using, I mean, I've been to...
I thought there was a local project from the Tairua.
No, it's all part of the trail.
That's part of the trail, and last year when the board gave them the funding of $50,000, the board stipulated that it was for the section from Tairua School to Tairua Cemetery.
And that hasn't kicked off in any way?
They have started it, but they haven't really given us an update, a full update.
I don't know why they're starting it.
They've done some geotech reports or something, haven't they?
Yeah, well, where are they?
Yeah.
I mean,
So this is,
So it's communication we're after.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think based on the fact that they provide us quarterly updates on the progress of the trail either end, I would support the funding agreement.
Give them 1 year with a review.
No, I don't have any problem with the overall as it's laid out, but we just need, we need to have get together with this, Derek, and we need to progress this somehow.
yeah. So the part of the funding agreement will have conditions and achievable outcomes, which we can work in conjunction with the board's wishes as well as what Hikawai District Trust can achieve in the time.
Yeah, agree with that totally. We need some objectives tied to it. Yes.
Which the funding agreement will
Yeah.
have.
Okay, well, I'm supporting that. On a 3-year basis. That's just a 3-year model that we'll look at again in the next long-term plan. Yeah,
Yeah, I agree.
you happy with it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so just for clarity, so we're approving, the board is approving the 3 years for funding agreement renewal for the Hikawai Hall Board, for the for the library, Paranoia Library, and for the Hikawai District Trust.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. So, put that in, all in favour? Aye. Yes? Carried, thank you. Okay. 2.3, discretionary fund request for the Paranoia men shed. This report is for our board to consider a discretionary fund request of $2,500 for the Paranoia men to the Paranoia men shed to assist with the cost of fitting out a metal workshop. Can we have a move and second of this? Yeah. Second? Yep. Thank you. In favour? Thank you. Discussion? Eileen?
Well, I'll take the report as read, and you've read what they want the money for and how they're going to do it. So, any discussion from the board? Any questions?
And what are we going to pay for it out of?
Your discretionary fund, you've got $18,000 left in there.
Did they miss the grant application? Was it a notice on it?
Well, they obviously missed the community grants because they filled in a community grant application, but I think they may have just thought they were doing one and not the other. Yeah.
Okay. Through the chair, this is a community group that goes back to the community, 100%. Sorry, 100%.
Yeah,
We should be climbing over broken glass to support these guys.
Yeah,
No,
I agree.
okay, so we're all in favour, obviously?
Yes.
Yeah.
No one against? Thank you.
So we're approving.
So the resolution, both part 1 and part 2, oh sorry, not part 2, part 1.
Part 2 will be approves the request of $2,500.
Yep.
Where is the shed?
Behind the hangar, oh, isn't it behind the hangar, there?
Well, you know where the, obviously got that shed to one side of it, big plain indoor bowls and whatever.
The old hangar?
And yeah, well, it's not, yeah.
Around the big man.
It is at the back of that.
Okay. Get a good cup of tea when you go there.
You get a couple of these,
Hey, I've been there a few times.
3.1.
They make all our benches for around the coastline, the seats. Yeah. No, they've got a real good job.
You got a little cup of tea running around the community.
Moving on to 3.1. The purpose of this report is to recommend to our board that the request council approve an agreement to stop an existing section of the surplus road reserve up at 23 Pacific Drive, it's up on Parku, removing the public rights of access, and to sell the land to the adjacent landowner, who is the applicant, to form part of the title for that property. We'll move in a second, please. Happy to move this. Second out, Kath. Thank you. Favour? Aye. I'm against. Ed, welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, all. Through the chair, if I may, I assume the report has been read. Basically, this is a residual section of land. The owner of the property wishes to develop the property and has identified that there's 2 retaining walls and half a water tank already existing on that land. The land is currently a road reserve, but it is surplus to requirements. Formed part of the original development proposal for a larger turning head that was never required. asking the community board to agree to the sale of this land to the adjacent property owner to enable the property to be further developed.
Yeah. Yes.
Ed, you say the sale of the land, what's the value? I didn't pick up the sale of the land.
We have not undertaken a valuation of the land at the moment, but it will be valued as part of the process and sold at market prices to the applicant.
Okay, right, I haven't done it, okay. Yeah, no, I'd never heard of the term, but yeah, I can see what you're trying to do, it's all good.
Nobody's in Viability. In the deep south.
No, that's just a statement.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with it.
Makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense.
So it's part 1, part 2, and part 3. Resolution?
Yeah.
So the resolution is receives the report, recommends that the TCDC agree and consent pursuant to the Public Works Act, and delegates the Chief Executive Staff Authority to complete all necessary steps.
Yep. So we're all in favour?
Aye.
No against? Thank you very much, carried. 3.2. The Paranoia community bus. This report is to update the community board on its findings to date on a request to investigate the proposed delivery of a community bus service outlined in attachment C in the presentation. Again, welcome Ed.
Hi, Ed's staying on, that's good.
Move it second first, please.
I'll move it.
Second, Ed.
Second.
Yeah, favour?
Aye.
Yeah.
So can I speak to this, to the Chair? I know Ed's here and I've read his report. So I just need to give you a bit of a history on this, I suppose. This was brought to the table by the Regional Council. Our council representing our area, Dennis Teague, brought this up as a proposal. As part of what Regional Council does, while it's not the funding agent behind this, they are the people who are regulatory look after it. And they are looking to connect communities with services that provide people who can't drive opportunities to move between communities and families. I saw Ed's words here, and he talks about different things like the National Fare Box Recovery Policy. I've spoken to Regional Council about this in depth, and they say, and I see what your words there, Ed, that this is not really followed, even though it's one of their policies. No one really follows these policies to the letter because a lot of these services end up costing the community something to provide this service. It's like we do with the halls, the swimming pools and other things. They're adding value to the community in a different way, and this is one of them. So there was a webinar the other day online with Regional Council looking at transportation, and on the webinar they were very clear to say that they were wanting to connect communities through bus services, and to do it through the Regional Council as the cogent between NZTA and the communities. There has to be a buy-in, and they obviously want to have some feedback on the community on whether this is a viable proposition to move into a business plan. So over the last year, when this has been flagged, we've had a series of ad hoc people come to me particularly, I suppose, saying that they want the service. So there is definitely some desire for out there. I asked for some money in the long-term plan. We got $10,000 in the Whangamata long-term plan to support this in some way, to gauge support, to see if we can build a business plan around it. You did have an operator here in Tairua who was keen to get involved with it. So what I'm saying is that I would like the board to consider option 2, and that we move forward to look at options of ways to go out and communicate with the community to gauge the support to build a business plan, that we can look at this in the 2022-23 annual plan. You want to comment on that, Ed?
No, I believe you've covered that quite succinctly. At the moment, there are 2 options that I believe are available to the community board. One is not to support it, and the other is to develop a business plan for inclusion in the 2022-23 annual plan.
Okay. Yeah, I think looking at it long term, I don't know what the viability of our existing bus services. I mean, it was the same. So I don't think we should I don't believe we should go for option one. I think staff should look at this further. We're looking out in the future. We don't have a crystal ball. We're an ageing population, and I know the community bus is used a lot. The Resident Ratepayers Association were in favour, and I spoke to them, of if there was any support, it should go towards the community bus rather than to someone else, but that was just their opinion. I think we are to the community at large, but we should go down that road of option two.
Yeah, I 100% support option two as well. Yeah.
Okay, Chris, you got any views? Barry, I don't know how Paranoia was going to. Originally, Paranoia people were going to have to come out to Hickory. That was part of the first concept, wasn't it?
That was talking about that day the bus would go into there now. That was based on a booking system.
Booking.
Yeah. You ring up and book it and it'll arrive.
Yeah.
But it's early days to define the whole. It's really about getting the community's input, and if there's energy there around it, we need to decide is this a project we need to pursue further. That's really where I think we're trying to head.
It's got to go out there so people are fully aware of what they have to do to
ask questions.
It will involve some rate money somewhere.
Looks to me like we got
a gold card.
So I'd like to move we go option two and request staff to investigate the development of a proposal in conjunction with Wakatahi and Waka Regional Council and the business case suitable for submission to the 22-23 annual plan.
Right. Happy with that, people? You've heard that? All in favour? Aye. No one against? We'll carry that. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
3.3. Tairua Community Board Work Programme. This report is to update our board on the implementation and the progress of the 21-22 work programme that was approved by Council as part of the 21-22 annual plan. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Yep.
Seconder. Yeah, thank you. Item.
This is Bruce's baby.
Yeah. Is Bruce on board? Oh, yeah. Morning, Bruce.
Morning.
Morning, Bruce. You're looking very dapper.
Yeah, so I take the report as read. Early days, we've had a bit of a hiccup, obviously, with this, with the latest lockdown. That's thrown things into a little bit of disarray with supply of staff materials, and also getting contractors and consultants out of Auckland to do site visits and the rest of it. The team is still busy working, doing what they can do. But yeah, we'll just keep you updated as things go along through the year with the delivery of this big program, but happy to take any questions.
This is really got your footpath.
Yeah. So Bruce, I'd just like to raise, obviously, on page 2, footpath construction. The priority hit list has been adjusted per the request of the Tairua Pauanui Board, Community Board, the new priority section on State Highway 25 connecting the new footbridge. Design work will require and will need consent from Wakatahi. Is this now a project, or is this still in the scoping stage?
So I would say it's still in the scoping phase. Ed is still online, so he might want to provide further comment than what I can give you, but at this stage I would say it's still in the investigation phase, but I'm happy for Ed to jump in if he knows anything else.
Thank you, Bruce. Through the chair, we are still investigating with Wakatahi on the options for the footpath. We've got an initial design already prepared, which will link through to the bridge from the side road to the north. That's all that could be funded at this moment in time. And we are also now discussing with Waka Kotahi the extension of the footpath south of the proposed bridge. There's another culvert that needs to be extended to cross a second stream, but we believe it will probably be a 3 or 4 year rolling program of footpath and improvement works to actually link these, link the bridge down to the southern path.
Through the chair. Yes. Question, Ed, does this attract any funding from Waka Kotahi in their funding system?
Subsidy.
Subsidy.
Through the chair, that is going to be discussed this afternoon. At the moment, this forms part of a project that would be classified as low cost, low risk. They've told us that their subsidy for this is currently under review. We've got no indication of what that review actually entails or when we'll get an outcome for it, but I hope to have more information this afternoon. Normally this would include funding from Waka Kotahi, and as I say, we are trying to get this sorted out. But at this moment in time, I can't guarantee that.
So with their funding under stress at the moment, do you think they'll maybe push it out so it pushes the program out?
That would be my assessment of the current situation, yes.
Thank you.
The bridge to nowhere.
Don't say that.
I had a question, Bruce, about the puffin boat ramp.
Yes.
I note this, as I say, you've engaged a consultant. Now I understand that there's a section over there that's got bollards and it's roped off as a designated boat launching and retrieving area. I think I've asked this question before. Why can we not bring forward the harbour charge, fee charge and start accumulating some funds? What was the reason? Why hadn't we done that?
So, so through the chair, if I'm kind of picking you up correctly, you're talking about the change to harbour charges that we talked about over the last kind of 18 months or so. Is that what you're talking about?
The introduction.
Yeah. So what we're doing with that is, as you'll remember, we talked about that as part of the long-term plan. Elected members, the council decided they'd put that on hold while we did some more work on that. So, so with Derek's team, community facilities, they've done a whole lot of work around the concessions on council-owned land reserves, and the next bit of work they've also done a lot of work on that they'll be bringing back shortly is around the boat facilities charging, so around the ramps and the wharves. So what we've got to do is we've got to take that through through council, through the boards and council, and get that into the annual plan for the 22-23 annual plan if we want to make those changes to the fees and charges.
But they're up and running here at Palmatar and Whittiangan. They're existing there.
Historically, they are. Yeah, they're not new charges. Just whatever.
But you are charging. The fees are up and running there.
Trailer charges.
So we're the only one that's not currently have boat fees.
No, there's other wards that don't have the fees, and Terry's correct. Those are historic charges which have been in place for a number of years. So obviously the change that we were looking to make through the long-term plan would have introduced some level of consistency across the whole district, and would have raised those fees and charges. But obviously the decision was made by council at this stage just to pause that and leave everything as it was. And so what the effect of that is that the people that were paying, like Whangmatar, continue to pay those rates as they were, whereas Tairua Pauanui, who weren't paying anything, continue to not pay anything at this stage. So like I say, the aim is we're aiming for the annual plan from 1 July next year to introduce a more comprehensive fee structure around the harbour facilities.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else got any questions about the work program? But the stuff's obviously greater than materials having an effect on it, isn't it?
Yeah, with the Paranoia boat ramp, is the plan to put on a concrete boat ramp Yeah,
I understand so.
yeah.
There is,
I don't have all the details on that, sorry, at this stage. So it really depends how we get on with the consent and all the rest of the work that we need to do there. So we'll just bring an update back as soon as we've managed to move that forward. Obviously, the consent is the key to it first, to get that sorted, and then move on to the next stages.
Thank you.
Terry?
Bruce, if I can just raise the Paranoia Holland Stream improvements, please.
Yes, yep.
The feedback to date has been that the stream is working very well. The clearing out that's been done to date seems to keep the stream, when it gets into a flood or high water, flow rates seem to work well. So that's very positive to hear.
Yep, that's good.
Is the consent application documentation, is that been lodged or is that still in the process?
No, so we're waiting to have a pre-lodgement meeting with the regional council. So the plan at this stage is to have that before the end of September. So there's a number of things that we've had to do around archaeological site visits, meeting with iwi, all those kind of things. So arranging all of that and having those meetings, and then, like I say, the pre-lodgement before the end of the month. So yeah, hoping to keep that one moving.
Thank you.
It's been moving pretty slowly, I'd say.
Okay, any further discussion on the community board work program? If not, I've got the resolution that we received. The board received the community board 21-22 work program update. All in favour? Aye. Yes? None? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
No, we have, keep going.
Action.
Well, we're moving.
You guys have been very speedy.
We're moving right.
4.1, we're going 4.1, Tairua Pauanui Community Plan, Action Plan. This report is to update our board on actions arising from the PPCB members' reports. So who wants to lead off?
Can I ask number 2 item, which says open, that the staff will provide a location of the proposed public barbecue installation at Nana's Bay. Is it Nana's?
Nana's,
Is that how you say it?
Parku, Nana's Bay, yes. And
Has that been provided?
Esplanade Reserve.
yeah, I don't know, I've got the name Nana's Bay.
That's what we've named it. I haven't had an update unless you have, Bruce, from Derek and Lou as to where that actual location is.
No, I don't. Sorry, Eileen. Yeah, so I remember you speaking about the bay at the last meeting, and I wasn't aware of actually where it was.
There's only one place, that's right at the top end of the Esplanade, that little grass sections where the walk track goes up the side of the hill.
Is that where all the old is?
No,
I don't know.
just like the done.
Make more sense to have it either toilets or not.
Yeah, well, but this came out of that field, but I really know nothing about it, so we just asked the question.
Yeah. Be good to see the plan where it's proposed.
Well, they get well used, the ones that are area reserve.
So my understanding is that will come to the board when it's ready?
Yeah, I've just emailed Lou to see if he's got a response.
So can I suggest that yes, we bring the location and a little map back to the board, so at least the board is fully aware of where we're talking about on this one, rather than at the moment where we're not 100% sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What else do I need here? Have you done anything about that advertising, the hoarding, the stuff that I do, the sign down at the Memphis Road?
Yes, pass that on to regulatory and compliance.
Are you aware I've received complaints from various people about the proliferation of the hoarding down at the entrance of Memphis Road. So I understand that that's
Being followed up.
what I want to do.
Regulatory and compliance.
And the diggings around the
My understanding.
around the wall.
I'll follow up with regulatory and compliance on both of those requests.
I think that's going to come up in reserve management anyway. So members' reports.
Did you do a first and a second for the action schedule?
Okay.
No, finished.
Nothing else on the action schedule? So it's going to have a move, or well, resolution is that we received the board received the actual schedule report dated 7th of July. All in favour? Aye. Yes. Carried, thank you.
We get a first and second.
And then a movement?
Did we not have it?
No.
Oh, okay. Move in a second, please.
On those.
Yes, moved. Barry, second.
Yep.
We're all in favour? No one's against? Aye. Carried.
Now you members' reports.
Members' reports, 4.2. This is the invitation for all to give you a brief report on our activities since the last meeting. Who wants to lead off? Mr. Walker?
Yeah, I'll be brief, but yep. I just want to make note, you've raised the issue around parking for the boat trailers and revenue. One of the big issues I think Tairua has to do is organise about the parking facilities around the Tairua boat park ramp. And thinking about that, that'll be one of the issues that'll be raised when you start charging people. So I think when you get around to that discussion, the board should really look at how to deal with that. I know it's an easy one, but it's certainly one that I've been asked a few times about how to work it out, and it's beyond me. The other one I want to raise really is we've had a very comprehensive letter from the Tairua residents and ratepayers over the submission to the Thames-Coromandel District Council 2001 representation review. So we went through it, so it was quite a very detailed letter of how they see the board and how the representation should be considered. That's gone to council. Council itself has had some dialogue over the last little while on this as well, so they've had feedback as well. So just give you that's all right.
Would you give us some details on what they've asked for or suggested?
Yes, I can. One of the concerns, or one of the big things, is that we've only got population represented by 2 councils appointed to the South East Ward, which really nearly reaches the plus or minus 10 variation. So we're very close to the plus 10. So to get another one, we've got to be over this 10% plus or minus. When you lose one, when you drop, and you gain one when you grow. Mercury Bay have, it looks like they'll get another councillor into the award for this year. It says here, under the current proposal, each South East Ward councillor will represent 583 more people than proposed 3 councils for Mercury Bay. So while we are on that threshold, we're not quite there. There are more people that we have to engage with. It does go on and talk about the census and the dwellings and the unoccupied homes, and the fact that the non-resident ratepayers need to be informed as best we can for them to register for voting, to have they'll have 1 vote per house to get that done. Talks about putting something out with the rates demand or something like that. It's really important to try and engage those people to have their say, which makes a big difference. Several pages of this, so I'm just trying to sum it down a little bit. They would definitely like to have a councillor representing this area on its own, and maybe 1 or 2 over in Whangamata, mainly because the numbers make it very difficult. People climb into that area to not know them very well. So councillors have to really be out there and make themselves noticed and available.
It's a very difficult area to through Coromandel.
No.
They really want to keep community boards. Community boards, I say, is an important part of the community chain to be able to provide that information back through the councils. So in summary, all ratepayers should be automatically enrolled to vote, regardless of whether they're permanent residents or not. This is one of the things I'd like to ask, which has always been our big issue. We question the appropriateness of basing councillors' representation on usual resident numbers, where residents and non-resident ratepayers proportions differ greatly between wards. The South East Ward should have a greater representation by way of a 3rd councillor, based on votes from all ratepayers, not just permanent usual residents. All councillors for the ward need to be an active participant on community boards, and they were quite critical of the fact that one other councillor hasn't provided support around this table, but they were quite clear on that. So that's just a summary, give you a bit of an idea. The other one I just want to talk to you is the Three Waters. I don't know how many of you are engaged in the Three Waters discussion, but it's quite vocal at the moment. Again, we've had quite a comprehensive meeting on the 14th of this month, the council to talk about it. And really, there's three parts to it. There's the Tairua Pauanui, which is one part of it, is the regulatory part, making sure everybody does things right. There's the Water Services Bill, which they call the economic regulator. It's about how it's all going to happen. And then the Three Waters Service Delivery Reform, which is how they're going to do it. And this tends to be quite controversial. So the council's been in dialogue for quite a long time with government over this. Government's asked council to construct, provide construction feedback, not negative. The opt-in, opt-out conversation at this stage is not to happen until after the 1st of October. This is very about information going back and forward to the government asking questions. And they prepared a 28-point questions to go back to the Minister. That this is a discussion between the Minister of Local Government, the DIA, Department of Internal Affairs, and Local Government New Zealand. Local Government New Zealand signed a heads of agreement discussion to say that they would engage with the government over these discussions. I've had plenty of feedback from individuals and groups who are very concerned over where this is going, and to the fact that there's all sorts of little formation of groups and petitions starting to arrive into the system. But I'm just keeping you abreast of what the council has put together. There was a motion put to the council to opt out, but that was just tabled until such time as we head back from the government after the 1st of October and what they want to do. If they mandate it, well then we have to then consider our next moves after that. There's all sorts of, there's $2.5 billion of funding available to councils if they opt in for use on
the bribe, you mean?
Some bureaucratic dream.
So we would lose the assets that we've got currently with our new water treatment stations. We lose all that.
Yes, they take all the assets and they take all the bills as well, the liabilities. Yeah. They take the whole lot, and then they are forming four, you'll see on TV, the 4 groups across the country. These 4 entities will then, understanding not privatised, but they will then manage the project, and then they'll have a board of people who will manage where the work goes and how it goes, and then the regulator will manage to make sure it's done to a certain standard. So there's a whole lot of
bureaucratic nightmare with this. It's absolutely crazy.
That was part of my members' report. This man, I've got an awful lot of people upset about this. Awful lot of people. Got it on mine.
I think this will be the biggest issue that councils have faced in 100 years.
Yeah.
So it's quite a biggie. So we are treading carefully, and we're making sure we do the right ticks as we go along, tick the boxes.
It's still being developed, isn't it? I mean, the thing is,
it's getting
being drip-fed
by stealth.
It is.
There seems to be a feeling that we are sort of catching up a bit on the information. It's not flowing out as much as we'd like. We're asking the questions. And I think Rex has done a really good job on preparing that document on all the information right back to clause 28, which I'll read out. Council highlights that this is a controversial issue. The feedback received from its ratepayers is telling us to vote opt-out. So they've flagged them already to say there's a concern, but we want to wait to see what the government does in terms of responding to those requests.
One of the things all those people should take into consideration, is there anybody on the board looking at this thing got any common sense?
No comment.
See, one of the comments you make there is they want constructive feedback, not negative.
Yeah.
Well, you're not allowed to say you don't want it.
No, you've got to say how you want it, not how you don't want it.
Look, that's
Well, we don't want it.
we want it to remain staying the same. That's what we wanted.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a bit more water to flow under the bridge, so just hang in there. And
Without a pond.
So, yeah, so I just need to keep you addressed to that, and it's,
I'll bet it comes through without, we don't get a say on it.
It's a subject of the element here, it's got some hooks in it at the moment.
well, it's like everything new, and if
It's
it's
change.
change, we need to understand as much as we can before we make a decision, so this is what we're asking, you know. What are the what's, what are the ifs, what are the whys, see where we're going, so.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Chris?
That was me roughly, with the COVID, I haven't been to any meetings, really.
Yeah.
But like I say, there's an awful lot of opposition to this thing going through, and we certainly haven't heard the last of it, I'm quite sure. It'll be a major. And like you said, Terry, this is the biggest thing in 100 years, I reckon.
One of the key things, just to butt in a bit more, is that there's two other big issues on the table, the reform of local government and the RMA. So we're saying there's three big things on the table, which is the right way to do it, you know, and it really should we be looking at those first before we look at this. But anyway, that's discussion. So
It'll be a good thing we're coming to the end of our run, really. I feel for my kids.
Well, yeah, okay, Barry, what have you been up to?
Well, as Chris says, been really quiet to a degree with all this COVID going on, but engaged with a few people. Been, as I said before, been several times down to Holland Close, doing the stalls and see what's going there. Can't see any problems, just general acquaintance and that kind of thing. There's still some work to be done on beach accesses because of the damage what's gone there. Planting has been cancelled, so once again, but it's a stalemate still again. And I saw Eileen earlier on today talking about the office, sales office in Paranoia, just want some realisation as regards that. Just settle it down so we can solve that. But other than that, it's been quite quiet as regards this COVID thing. So yeah, and just inquiries about this, that, and the other. It's not just details. Very quiet. That's great.
Yeah.
Same for me, really. Obviously, we've been locked down most of since our last meeting. I did have an email from Ross Rundles on Alyssa Place, just highlighting the concerns that on the corner there, probably on the corner of Elsa and Pepe is reserved, and someone is building a fence. Well, I've got some posts, and it looks like they are perhaps closing off the reserve. So I've responded to them and referred them to council, and also we'll find out what is happening with that. Aside from that, I had an email from someone in Paranoia who needed some assistance with some resource consent matters. They would call on me, but that's really about it. Nothing much else to report.
Pleased to hear they've got your number.
Yeah. Well, I've made it public on the council website, so
Well,
be
yeah,
available.
well, I've been to a few meetings. I usually go to the heritage meetings. Eileen usually comes along. Actually missed the last one. There's an ATM coming up tomorrow from the info centre. Have you been in touch with them recently? With the illegals? Okay. Chris went out to Hickaway, Chris came out to Hickaway Hall, there,
Was that this month, wasn't it?
yeah, it was the last one we did. An environment group, we'll gathering with them about the foreshore or about the beach replenishment. Tsunami sirens, that seems to have calmed down.
We've been cut off the fire station now.
You've gone down. The other message I had here, a year or two ago, council used to do the edgings on the footpaths. They had a machine in there. Where is it?
I don't know.
What's happened to it?
A long time ago.
The grass is starting to grow over the footpaths, and they used to turn up once a year to do the edging. Can you make some inquiries?
Okay, yes.
Because these people, while we're in lockdown, everyone's out and about walking the footpaths, inspecting everything. And a couple had a crack at me about, what's this doing with the edging tool? Where did that go?
They used to come around with a machine that used to cut the edges and then they'd come up around about 3 weeks later and
Try and pick it up if you were lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know, you don't see much of the new contractors.
Yeah, I'm going to say, got new contractors, don't they?
Anyway, it's just, people,
It'll be interesting to see when the grass really starts to grow.
residents are becoming a bit fed up and pitchy and touchy and, all that stuff.
It's cold,
And they're looking for these things, get onto them.
Oh, these on the sticky top over.
Well, it's been, okay, so,
Need it.
any comment?
Second?
move.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, Terry, move a seconder.
Oh, yeah.
All in favour? Aye. So that's the resolution that we received the board members' reports. 4.2, 4.3. We're going to the next stage of that.
Mr. Gunning is going to.
Public excluded.
Yes,
So moved.
me to vote.
Move, we second.
Second.
Thank you, Barry. Favour, we move out of, move into public excluded.
Just check the recording stuff.
That stopped now.